is going to come in.
Let's talk about women. Well, we are on Helen Zille. There's a death of women leadership, or there's a difficulty for women to ascend to political positions in political parties, and it makes the pool with which let me call it the electorate can pick from. An example would be, of course, Colleen Makhubela, who was with Sarah, and the possibilities were very limited there for someone coming from a very small party to ascend into being the president, and that's why she went to MK, because this is where the numbers are. We're talking about MK, we're talking about Mary Phadi versus Wisim Kweban. And we can, of course, ignore the powerhouse that is Comrade Grenade called Duduzile Zuma. All of this, when I spoke to Naledi Pandor, I asked her who can be the best female president at this stage, because other aspirant females who wanted to be president of the country were shot down, and of course by the ANC Women's League at some point for choosing not to support their campaigns. And when I've got an opportunity to interview a woman, I always make sure that I put this question to you: is there hope, and who are these hopeful politicians who we might not regard them now, but in future they are going to be big players in our political space, and they might be our president? You can take it from anywhere.
No, thank you. I think the issue of women shows limitations in terms of the succession debate or the succession plan. But also it exposes, for me, a deficit. If you look at President Zuma, of all the women that he would know, he chose his own daughter to lead, who has no political background, but he chose his own daughter. When you speak of Colleen Makhubela, I mean, Colleen had millions from the Jewish community. And as you would know, before the elections and towards the elections, she was the flag bearer for Israel. So to then start positioning her as some victim, I think it's, for me, it's not correct. She's not a victim. She had resources, and her resources came from the Jewish community. And of course, any community has a right to influence, and she agreed to be influenced. And her narrative, or her electoral narrative, was in protection of the state of Israel. And now she's leading MK, which shows again the ideological deficit within MK. Then you speak of Mkhwebane and Mary Phadi. Mkhwebane has no political background, but of course, it also shows that when she was deployed, she was not deployed in defense of the country, but in defense of the person who was in office, which is President Zuma. So for me, there are many young quality comrades, female politicians, but they do not get the support. Even if you were to mention highly senior comrades like Lindiwe Sisulu, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Naledi Pandor, show me the women that they have groomed. President Zuma still wants to lead at the age of 80 and above. And the person that he sees as a successor is his own daughter. Or the people who are loyal, extremely loyal, and who don't question him. So it tells you that it continues that, as Plato says, it is for the old to lead and for the young to follow. So the majority of the elder or the older generation, they do not have the conviction to hand over. They want to lead from the grave. And as they lead from the grave, they would want people who think like them, who pursue their ideals correctly or incorrectly. They want people who would be part of the cult, if I might put it like that. So the challenge is that politics in South Africa, it's highly funded. It requires a lot of money. So the many women who are there, they do not have the resources to get into the politics, and neither do they have support from political leaders who can groom and mentor them so that they can take over. So for me, that is the challenge. But I just also want to say that the ANC itself, the ANC of President Zuma before he left, it had taken a position that it will empower women. Because you must remember that the ANC was primarily formed by men. But it was formed by men who were their sisters' keepers, men who wanted to study and come back and, change their communities and protect their women. So it was a completely different generation altogether. But of course, with apartheid, the ANC at the time took a position that, the fight for freedom will not be complete without women. So many women were groomed within the ANC to lead. But, as with many battles, they become casualties. Some of them, they agree to become tokens for male leaders. But it's the realities of politics.
Let's talk names. Let me deliberately start with the EFF. We've got Omphile Maotwe there. She's like the most senior female. Mm-hmm. What are the likelihood of her leading the party itself or ever being the president of a country?
Well, the people of the country must decide who becomes their president based on merit. But she's there in the EFF. She supports a male leader. So it will depend on who Julius chooses. So if Julius chooses her, then she'll probably lead the EFF.
Not the fighters choose her over Julius.
Well, the EFF belongs to Julius Malema. So perhaps Julius can be weak. Perhaps Julius will eventually join the ANC or, have a measure with the ANC. But at the moment, it's Julius Malema who holds the cards and who decides who becomes a leader. So if I'm a woman and I choose to join a political party, understanding its constraints, understanding its view on women, I cannot then be characterized as a victim. So many of these women, they do not have a problem with being led by men. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being led by men, as long as those men are fit and proper. But many women are not prepared to support each other. It's a reality. And at the same time, women do not groom other women to take over. So unfortunately, those are the hard cold realities. Helen Zille is, in fact, she has demonstrated what a woman can do. And we can look up to her, not in terms of the ideology of the Democratic Alliance, but we can look up to her as a leader who is decisive and as a leader who, takes a position.
Can Mary Phadi fall into that?
The lady from Mpumalanga?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm told that she comes from the coal industry, and I don't know who she is. The trucking industry. I don't know. It depends also on Jacob Zuma. Remember, MK Party does not have any ideology. It has not gone to conference. It does not have any theory. So anyone can lead, depending on who President Zuma chooses, not because they are fit and proper. I can tell you now that there are many women who are in MK Party who are very solid, who are ideologically grounded. But unfortunately, they do not have access to proximity. They do not have access to President Zuma. So leadership is not about proximity. To come to a conclusion that a person must lead because they are closer to Zuma or they like Zuma. You can imagine a full human being like myself having to take a position that I would be given a position within MK because I agree with everything that Baba says. It means I don't love myself. Of course, we must listen to leadership, but you can't listen to everything